Ooh, y'all. The transformation of it all, the transformation of it all, the transformation of it all. I'm starting to learn and realize that no matter what your belief system is, we call it the fucking same thing, bro. It's all literally the same thing. The transformation of it all. You know, when you realize, if you look at this shit from the fascia perspective, it's like we didn't even have a chance, honey, especially if birth is trauma. We really ain't had no fucking chance, for real, for real. And then as we became adults and we go through life and just all the life stressors and everything else just adds to it. We ain't had no damn chance. Then we showing up in our lives all fucked up in friendships, at work, co-workers, relationships with our family, relationships with friends, just showing up just as toxic as can be. Ain't got the nerve to don't want to admit it. Who wants to admit they trifling as hell? Who wants to admit they hurt the people they love, whether it's intentional or unintentional? Who wants to admit that shit? So then you got the shame and the guilt. Then you got life itself. So not only is you walking around carrying that trauma imprint and all the stressors and shit in the body, heart, mind, and soul, because it's in the fascia system, which is every damn where. So now it's in your ankles, it's in your wrists, it's in your organs, it's in your brain. You walking around and people preaching. You need to do this and that and be good and be that and all the things. But you walking around with all that shit in your body. Just as confused. No clarity. Trying to be great, starting business, they not going nowhere. Trying to be in love, but you don't love yourself. Then, on top of all of that, now you feel shitty about all of it. You can't figure out why I'm trying here. I'm drowning here. Add in the fact that you got children and spouses. Now they got their trauma imprint. Your children is mimicking your trauma imprint. They got a mom and a dad in the same household. Now they trauma imprint. Then them little babies is running around just developing their own trauma imprint. And everybody just trying to figure it out on top of all of that. No wonder society is what it is. Just a toxic. Of course we don't feel good. My goodness. Honey, the transformation of it all. And if you are able to really find a way to let go, doing the things that you've been doing and grow and heal and all the things in the midst of it all, you really need to look at yourself and understand what a champion you truly are. People really need to start believing in themselves and understanding that this shit sucks. And this shit is hard. Hard to fucking accept. Hard to experience. Hard to let go. Hard to admit. Just hard. Like the body. Therefore, the mind. Therefore, the heart. Therefore, the soul. It's all connected. But what I've started to realize not even starting to realize, you can tell that people don't know how to love themselves, and you could tell that people don't know how to have empathy and compassion for themselves. But when you connect the trauma imprint and the fact that we didn't have a fucking choice nor a chance, you can hopefully connect understanding to yourself. But you cannot and will not have all the things and be all the things. The good things, the joy, the love, the happy, the empathy, the compassion, until you feel it for yourself. And once that happened within me, I realized, because one of my big toxic traits is overgiving, over showing up, over being there, overdoing the things to the detriment of myself. I have a lot more, but this is the one that has guided my life for a very, 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 very long time. I could think back to being a child and overgiving to adults, grown ass adults who were more than capable. But it feels good to receive. And I understand that. Overgiving is just as toxic as takers. There is no good or bad. There is no better or worse. There is no trauma or trauma behavior worse or better than another. There is no sin greater than another. Whatever your belief system is, it is saying the same thing. Whether it's religion or spirituality, it is saying the same thing. But there is not one trauma behavior greater than another. Nobody else's shit is better than anybody else's. Nobody's healing is better than anybody else's. But what I had to really, truly understand was my overgiving was toxic because I was still toxic within myself. There's nothing wrong with having a good heart or, showing up for the ones that you love. And when I show up at ignorant levels, bro. I do shit for people that most just can't even do for themselves. And what my lesson is in all of that is that I wasn't doing it for myself. That's why it kept showing up in a very toxic manner, in a very unhealed manner, because it was to the detriment of myself. The Bible speaks of this, spirituality, it all speaks of it. You cannot give to others, love others, do unto others, show up for others, be for others until you can do those things for yourself. And what I had to learn in the past 60 days was that massive lesson. And once I truly understood, bingo. And when I stumbled upon the human garage and started doing those maneuvers, the fashion maneuvers, and releasing it out of my body, double fucking bingo. And what happened to me was the change, the healing, the transformation, the awakening. Do you understand that no matter what your belief system, it's the same shit? But that's what happened. Fuck a moment. It was beyond that. It made so much sense. And then to top all of it off, when my body started melting into the form or flowing energy into the form that it was intended to be, Lord, I could speak in tongues. Fucking magic. Which is how and why I was able to build the life that I have always dreamed of in 60 fucking days. Y'all can play with me if you want to, but I'm trying to tell you now. I'm really trying to tell you. There is something to this shit. My transformation, my change, my healing, my unlocking, my unblocking of energy, whether it was in the body, the mind, body, and spirit. I don't give a damn how you look at it. But what happened was I am balanced, aligned, I am in the form I was intended to be. It's the craziest shit. And when you regulate the nervous system, that's the balance of it all. That's, and only then the optimal state is when you feel the joy, the love, the compassion, the empathy, all of that shit, but you feel it for yourself. And once you feel it for yourself, self-love, fucking game changer. This is where it is. This is it for me. I understand it. That's the transformation of it all. That's how it connects. Y'all, I've been through hell and back, honey, 10 times over, and war 10 times. The trauma is real. The dark is real. The toxicity is and was real. Because what I've realized now that I'm balanced, mind, body, heart, soul, spirit, whatever, now that it's all balanced, my subconscious mind is balanced, right? I still am who I am. But all of that toxicity, that darkness, all of that, it's not there. It's there, but it's not there. It's just like as if it's sitting over there on the shelf, like it was. Doesn't mean it's not accessible. It does not mean it's not there. But what I'm trying to get people to really understand and accept about themselves is that A, we didn't have no choice. Trauma is real. Stress is real. And if you still sitting there feeling like you don't have trauma, COVID was trauma to all of us, to the world. So whether you had an abusive childhood or trauma within your life, that's fine. But there are external things that happen in our environment out of our control that cause trauma. But what my mission is, what my goal is to get people to really understand is that, A, we didn't even have a fucking chance, y'all. Especially if you come from broken families or broken, generational trauma. We didn't have a chance. The way we showing up is the way we showing up. Right or wrong, doesn't matter. The shit we did in our lives to survive, whether it was right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's time to let go of that guilt and that shame, the pity, the victim, all of that. It's time to let that go. It's time to get that shit out of the body. But what we really need to learn to do is to accept what it was. That's it. It is what it is. Such a fucked up shit to say, but it really is true. Our path is our path. What happened, happened. As fucked up as that sounds, especially if you got a dark ass past or a dark ass, path. It's hard to eat because it makes it sound so fucking simple and fundamental, as if what you've experienced or what you've gone through in life or what you've done to other people isn't horrifying, shameful, traumatic. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is we know that already. We already know that shit. You lived it. You feel it. You hold it. You know it already. But what you really need to understand, and what you need to try to understand quickly, is that the way you showing up is hurting other people. And when I realized that shit for myself, regardless of what we've experienced, our trauma and the way we show up is not more important than the way we treat ourselves, the people we work with, our families, our children, our spouses, our pets, they matter too. So the way we show up matters too, and should be just as important as the trauma itself. And nobody understands how hard it is to see that. No one understands more than me. But for healing, change, transformation, you have to regulate the nervous system to snap out of the triggered state, the protective state, so that you can really understand and see how you showing up in life. Because it does fucking matter. And that's how you get out of your own way. It is going to be hard to see and understand that in a triggered state, period. But what is important in healing, and what I had to recently really truly learn from myself, is that you cannot and will not start healing until you can look at yourself, see yourself, and how you showing up and affecting others. Period. That, the shadow work. That's my lane, honey. And it's my lane because it's dirty, it's dark, it's nasty. It is unkind to yourself, but it is truly the only way. If you can recognize within yourself that your trauma behaviors are affecting the ones that love you most, your children, your spouse, your friends, the people closest to you, I already know inside it is not what you want to do. It is not what I wanted to do. I can remember I would say and do fucked up shit to people without even thinking about it. It was as if it was my programming. And if you think about trauma from a fascia perspective, no shit, it is the programming. It is the wiring, right? The addictions, the fucked up ass behavior, the shit that shows up when you don't heal trauma. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We have to accept it. It's the imprint. It's the wiring. Accept that shit so that we can do something about that shit. It is time for people to stop not only hurting themselves, but the people around them. Now that I'm on the other side of it and I'm literally doing everything in my soul to live in the light, I can actually look back at my behavior and I am appalled. Because when you regulate that nervous system and you come down and you get in the optimal state where clarity lives and you recognize how you showed up, even though you know already in a triggered state, you already know. But I can sit back and sit now here and really recognize how I used to show up. And then because, I was a giver, right? Show up with the fucking cape and shit. Super saver hoe. Dun 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 dun. I got you. On top of it. That's gross. And how that makes people feel. We know toxicity. You know how you showing up. How you showing up at work. You know how you showing up in relationships. You know how you showing up in friendships. You know how you showing up as a parent. You know how you showing up as a spouse. We know all that already. The true change and healing doesn't happen until you can stand in that mirror and admit that within yourself. One of the hardest things in the world to do. To sit there and stand there and say, yeah, man, I had to sit there and admit, even though I had a golden super saver whole cape, I was still toxic as a mother. You understand? You still toxic. I was still hurting people. Most importantly, I was hurting myself though. So my overgiving nature, right? Because I was still hurting myself. I still had that toxicity within me. My gifts, my talents, my natural abilities showed up toxic. That's the real of it all. And admitting that and accepting that is the transformation of it all, is the release of it all. But you have to be able to speak it. You have to be able to admit it within yourself. That's that dark bout that life work. The shadow work. I want the dirty work. I want to help people face themselves, see that shit. Because the sooner and the better you see it within yourself, as soon as you see it within yourself, that doesn't do anything but not only change you, but it changes anything you are connected to. How you show up at work, how you show up in relationships, how you show up in friendships, how you show up for your children, how you show up for your spouses, how you show up for your partner, how you show up for your pets, how you show up, period, how you show up for yourself. You can't do any of that until you can do it for yourself. You can't do it for yourself, though, until you can admit it. And you can admit it and accept it. Until you can come out of a triggered state. And as soon as you come out of a triggered state and you relax that nervous system where clarity and empathy and love and joy and all that shit sit. And when you can do that for yourself, you don't have to try to do it for nobody else, honey, because once you do it for yourself, by default, honey, anything you touch becomes it. You want love. You have to become love. You want compassion and empathy from others. You have to be that for yourself. You want patience and understanding. You have to be that for yourself first. You want respect. You have to respect yourself first. I don't give a damn what you tell yourself. You cannot do anything for anybody externally until you do it for yourself. And that is the massive lesson that I had to learn. All my overgiving energy, all of my time, all of my focus, all of my patience, all of my empathy, all of my compassion, all of my loyalty, all of my money, all of my existence, I would pour into everyone and everything. And when I started doing it for myself, woo, that's when it hit. That's when it clicked. But how on earth am I going to get people to do that? How on earth do you get people to understand and listen and fucking hear? Because I've always been like my grandmother, nurturer, counselor, supporter. People have always come to me in every phase of my existence, military, outside of the military, as a contractor. I'm still coaching and guiding people in uniform. It's always been a natural gift of mine. It's a natural ability of mine. I finally know exactly what I'm supposed to do with those gifts, but that has always been the case. But what was extremely dangerous and I hate to use that word because it's a very strong word, but it is true, is that when I was toxic or when I was living in my trauma, my gifts and abilities showed up very incorrectly. When I did not have control of my emotions because my nervous system was fried and fritz because of the trauma I was carrying in the body, mind, heart, and soul. The way that I showed up was incorrect, was very toxic. And like my grandmother who raised me, who got me in my formative years, which thank God I'm so glad she did. But like my grandmother, like I like to call it, she was a mean empath. And I can be one of the meanest empaths. I give a shit about a lot of people and I show up in a very nurturing and giving sense. That's my nature. But I was toxic and so was she. But my grandmother was phenomenal. People loved her. When you have unhealed trauma, that's just what it is. And so now that I've cleared it and I've healed it within myself, I shattered that generational trauma that was handed down, passed down. I could now take on a different path, one that she wasn't able to achieve. It's as if she passed the torch. All of the women in my family, phenomenal women. Phenomenal. I come from greatness for sure. Ancestors too. But when we grow in this world and try to live with unhealed trauma, we are held back. We are. Physically, mentally. We are held back. And because it sits within the fascia system, it is everywhere within us. It is everything we touch. It is everything we do. It is in the body. It is in the brain. It is in the organs. It is in the skeletal system. It is in the muscular system. It is in the nervous system. It is fucking everywhere. And we are doing our best to try to make it through this we call life. But the healing and the transformation will not and does not happen until you can admit how you show up. It is not about how we were hurt, wounded self, victim. We already know that. We live it every single day in our minds and physically in our body. We know that already. But until we can recognize how we affect others, how we show up in our lives and affect the people around us, only then is when the healing and the change can come. It does not negate and take away your experience, your trauma, what you've been through. It doesn't. That's not it at all. It doesn't take away that. No one can take that away. You already lived it. You currently live it. And everybody around you already knows it because you tell it consistently. I did. It was like my podium. Dun, 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 dun. Anytime anybody tried to come to Nikki, Sergeant Fletcher, and tell me about my behavior and how I was showing up and affecting my troops, or anyone in my family coming to me and trying to tell me how I was showing up and how what I was doing was hurting them, I couldn't see that shit. I was in me. Give a damn about none of that shit. I was hurt. You know what happened to me? Do you know what was done to me? The wounded self. That's the story I had to tell. Right? Anytime anybody came at me about anything I was doing, showing up, how I was behaving, my mouth, anytime it came pointed towards me, and I had to take accountability for what I was doing, And all I could ever tell people was my trauma. Because of my trauma, because of this, because of my trauma is why I am the way. That ain't got shit to do or how it changes, how it makes the people on the other side of it feel. Everybody got trauma. Your trauma, my trauma, is not more important than somebody else's experience through that. And that's what I had to learn and realize. I definitely had people in my life that loved me anyway, unconditionally. That does not give me the license nor the reason to accept how I treated them. And I love using my best friend as an example because there's two of them actually. And it depends on the perspective of how you look at it. But when people love you unconditionally from certain people's perspective or their own personal trauma perspective, it can look like they are allowing the behavior. So my best friend, she loved me unconditionally. Two of them loved me unconditionally. Therefore, no matter what I did or how I showed up, they loved me anyway. But it wasn't until I could look at them and not want to hurt them anymore, or I got sick of the way that I was showing up to others at work in my personal life. Until then, right? There was nothing I could do about stopping it. I can remember being at work sometimes in uniform sometimes and having senior leaders or people tell me, Nikki, hold it together. You need to hold it together. My emotions were unstable and all over the place. And I led, and my life was driven and directed by my trauma behaviors, how I showed up. And what I really expected was that everybody around me needed to adapt to that. And when you think about it, that should sound crazy as hell, don't it? To walk around life really expecting the world or anybody externally to deal with the way you show up. And if you are showing up with unstable emotions and your life is driven by your trauma, duh, it is. And really walking around expecting everybody around you to adapt and understand and exist within your trauma reality. Mind you, they have their own. That shit makes no sense. But in the trauma reality, of course it makes sense. It makes total fucking sense, right? Right? It makes complete and utter sense. It's your world. Of course it does. It's your experience, your perspective. Right? I dead ass used to be like, this is it. Hey man, I am who I am, blah, 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 all that shit. I used to do all that shit thinking that shit was cute. Or that first of all, where the fuck do people come off really, really expecting people, really, especially if you have children or especially if you are in a committed relationship or especially you, and this is another thing, right? But hold on, let me finish that. Especially if you already have a responsibility of showing up for people already, a responsibility when it comes to children who did not ask for that shit, right? And then got the nerve to be walking through life pissed the fuck off, agitated, hurt, devastated, whatever your shit is, and expecting your children, your loved ones, your coworkers, the people that you have to walk through life and touch every single day to deal with that shit is alarming. And I really didn't fucking see it until I stepped out of my own shit. And when you step out of that shit, and your nervous system gets regulated and you step into that optimal state and you look back and you realize, even though you already know through your trauma fucking filters and perspectives and realities, you already know your behavior is trifling. You already know how you showing up, ain't it? You already know where you showing up, how you show up for your children. And if you lacking because of your trauma, you already know. But when you step into clarity, it's embarrassing. But with a regulated nervous state, there's empathy and compassion and understanding. So then you can actually look back at the shit and be like, damn, man. Because as long as you're trying to do some shit to change and you trying to do some shit to do better, okay, cool. But you have to get to a point to where you can admit how you still currently, even though you in talk therapy and you doing yoga and you doing all the things and you are trying, that does not negate how you still showing up in your life. It does not negate how you still making people feel. It does not negate how you still talk, that you are not toxic. It does not negate any of that, that your children aren't currently still suffering, that you currently aren't still suffering. The people that you like spend your time with, closest to, aren't suffering because of how you show up. All of it is true. But at what point do we do some shit about it? At what point do we do something different? At what point do you do the different? And I'm telling you, working with the fascia system and approaching trauma and healing from this perspective, it happens rapidly. It happens quickly. And my transformation kicked me dead in the fucking teeth, man. Let me tell you something. Change and transformation, healing, the shit is real. It's achievable. It's achievable without working with the fascia system. But what people need to understand is that you can change and heal certain pieces and parts for sure. But them issues are still going to be within the body until you unlock all that shit in the fascia system and let that shit flow the way it was intended to flow. That's the true release. That's the letting go. And at a minimum, if you don't want to work with the fascia system because you don't think the trauma lives there and your emotions and all that shit lives there, okay, cool. But if you want to be at peace and you want a regulated nervous systems, these simple ass maneuvers is the way to go. This is a new approach to stress management, a new approach to the holistic health, a new approach to trauma healing. You don't have to believe anything I'm telling you. I'm just telling you. And it's not like I read and I'm getting anything about pushing this man's maneuvers or the human garage on anybody. I literally get nothing from it. He has products that he's selling. I don't take them. I might, but I don't currently take them. I'm getting nothing from this. What I intend to build for me in my transformation and from the knowledge and experience that I've gained and the healing that I have gained for me in my lane is to help other people through it. Now that I am balanced, all those gifts, my nurturing, my overgiving, all of that doesn't exist. Can it still exist? Sure, if I allow myself to become toxic again, but with a regulated nervous state and living in my optimal state, that's not even a thought. And now that it's not in my body and I'm moving real different physically, that's not the intention. Everything is different when you are regulated, when you are balanced. Everything shows up differently. How you show up differently, the things that you want, the desires, all of that is different when you're balanced. My transformation saved my life. Coming to New Mexico, no matter what it looked like to people on the outside, changed my life. What I've gone through in the past 2 years, hell, the past 60 days, best shit ever, because it changed my life. Everything that we do in our path, in our lives, is supposed to be. And the sooner you can accept that, the sooner you can accept how you show up, the sooner you can accept what happened, the sooner you can accept where you lack, the sooner you can accept all of those things, those dark thoughts, the sooner you can accept that. It was going to be anyway because of the trauma imprint you received as a child from your caregiver. And then you went out. Of course, you made the decisions that you made. And of course, you had the relationships that you had. And of course, you stayed in situations that you were in. It's the wiring. Of course you did. And it is time to let that shit rock. It is time to let it go. There was no other way. It doesn't even matter at this point anyway. When you can accept what it was, you can be, but you cannot be until you can accept what it was, what you did, how you showed up, how you hurt others, by default, yourself. And when you can do that for yourself, i.e., love yourself, that's where it is. You could talk about it in talk therapy, but it's in the body. Every modality is connected and every modality is necessary. But when you work the fascia system, you are working everything all at the same time. Hence, why change and transformation happen so quickly. And when it happens, all that I need to be healthy. I need to stop drinking. I need to stop smoking. I need to find joy. I need to find happiness. I need to be content. I need to stop doing all these inappropriate behaviors. I need to stop talking this way. I need to stop being this way to my children. I need to stop showing up this way in my relationship. I need to stop showing up this way in general. All of that, there is no I need to anymore. Once you regulate the nervous system, once you regulate the physical body, all of that I needs, I haves, no, 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 no. Honey, that becomes natural. And that's the magic of it all. And that is what I couldn't connect. And that is what I didn't understand until it happened within me. And that is how I know it to be true. And that is why I'm walking in my divine nature, in my purpose, and I can see clear exactly where I'm headed. It is also how I'm able to say, with all of the darkness that I have experienced in my life, that I am grateful for all of it, for every single awful thing, for every single person that took advantage, for every single person that used me, for every single person that tried to love me, for every single person that tried to be that friend, for every single person that tried to be those things for me that couldn't be. You weren't supposed to be. None of it. It was all supposed to be the way it was. Because if it did not, I would not be standing where I'm at today in the life that I knew I could achieve. My subconscious little vision of myself, through all of that toxicity and that darkness in my heart, mind, and soul, I saw this version of myself. I saw my houses. I saw the career. I saw the positions I could hold. I knew what I was capable of. I knew it. I couldn't understand why I could not achieve certain levels. Like, what the hell is in my way? Why can't I be this? Why can't I have love? Why can't I, mind you, at the same motherfucking time, I ain't none of that for myself, but trying to show up and be all of that for everybody around me. Dun, 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 dun. Super save a hoe. That's what I like to call myself, honey. I'm super save a hoe. You got a motherfucking problem, I'm going to solve it. You got a problem, I'm going to solve it. Period. Dun, 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 dun. Super save a hoe. Somebody calls, somebody needs something, boom, you got it. Here I is. I'm the one. And for some odd reason, I have a really good gift of being whatever the person needs, no matter what the current situation may be or how drastic that situation is. Coming to New Mexico and doing what I did here in New Mexico ain't really new for me. Really, it's not. I mean, I was literally taking care of a friend's kid in the middle of the height of the war. We'd pass him off. She'd go to one country for so long, and then I would have him, and then we would swap. And mind you, I was in my 20s, in the military, single, had a brand new baby, my angel baby. That's my baby. He's my first. Actually, he's not. He's my first in my adult life because I had me some babies when I was little. I told you I'm a natural nurturer and I love children. But I had me some babies when I was little, but there was always those special little ones that just stuck in my little heart. Amanda Perez, that's my first baby. That's my first baby. Then Aiden Michael, that's my second baby. I swear, y'all, I'm telling you, I'm like my grandmama. Yeah, Aiden Michael, that was my baby. In the height of the war, I was young too. Me and his mama, we was young. We did big shit though. I took care of him for 4 or 5 years, the first 4 years of his life. I helped raise that baby. There were just children that I had just a special bond and connection with throughout my entire existence. That damn Arsenia. I had her when she was 0 too. She was my baby. Got on my nerves, still do to this day, drives me crazy. That beautiful baby got her own baby. And this next one, I ain't even want to claim. She knows she will work my damn spirit, but that damn Kia, that's my baby too. There's special children in my heart and soul, always have been, and are part of my transformation. Then there's my last baby. My baby Bebop Sheree. That's my baby. And it's funny, each of these children I got at a different point in my life as far as my healing and my understanding of love and what love truly is or what it looks like for me. But there are people out or children outside of my family unit that are important and special to me. They are important and special to me. This does not negate my family unit or the children within my family unit because I got relationships with all of the children in my family unit, except for the newer ones that happened in the past couple of years. But my niece and nephews, they're not like my niece and nephews. They are like my children as well. It's just the way that I love and connect with people in general. I do not know how to do surface level connection. If you are in my life and I love you big. I show up big. I am gigantic. And now that I have healed, or am healing and have healed and broken and shattered the generational trauma in my bloodline, my love and everything, as if it could get any bigger, is even bigger. But it is in such a healthy way and a healthy sense because I can show up now that I am filled myself. I can show up. I know, baby, I'm sorry. Y'all hear my baby in the background. Now my babies, I didn't even talk about my dog babies, but my baby Glacier, he hungry, y'all. I gotta go. I could talk about this shit all day, but that is what this platform is, and that is what this podcast will be. It is time for change. It is time for us to heal. It is time for us to let go. It is time for us to love. And I am so very glad that I am here and that I have achieved what I have always wanted to achieve, and now I can share it with you. I love you. Let's heal.